from its heat. You can have a seat. Thank you very much. The heavens declare the glory of God. They proclaim his glory. They display his craftsmanship. God is amazing. If you look at creation, you look at the universe, the skies, it has to amaze you. And before I go any further, I want to give a little credit where credit is due. Doug's already guessed this today. A lot of this information comes from a guy by the name of Louis Giglio, and he's got 2 video series out there. Well, he's actually got several videos, but 2 particular ones. How Great is Our God? I'm going to pause for a second that you might write that down. How Great is Our God? And then also the video Indescribable, where he details a lot of this information in a much more elaborate and creative way because he's got a lot more money to do the graphics and everything. So if you've not seen it, I would really encourage you to watch those videos. It can blow your mind what they show you in those videos. God is amazing. So I want to give Louis Giglio credit, but really God used Louis to do that. And so we really want to give the credit to God. So we want to look at a few things. Where is it at? There it is. You should have gotten one of these. Your family should have gotten one of these, okay? It's a ping pong ball. In the video series, Louis Giglio uses a golf ball. And golf balls are more expensive, and they're harder to carry around and hand out. So a ping pong ball is about the same size, so that's what we're going to use today to represent Earth. So if we could bring up the first slide. Okay, that is our sun, all right? And if you'll hit the space bar again, that is our Earth. And hit it one more time. Okay, now you go ahead again. You should be able to see it. Now look in the there you go. See it down there in the corner? Now it's about the size of what it would compare to our sun. It's kind of small, right? Earth is kind of small. It's very insignificant in the scope of the size of the sun. Now, this is just our sun, our star. It's not that big in relation to other stars. But what it is if you said Earth is like a ping pong ball, okay? So hold up your ball. Earth is like a ping pong ball. Okay? And actually, before we go any further, I want to start this. At the far ends of each of the rows, there is a marker in the thing in front of you. There should be a marker, a permanent marker. And what I would like for you to do, you can start this now and just kind of pass the markers into the center and then put them in the pockets on the inside row. To put a dot, if you can. The markers might not work the best, so if it doesn't work the best now, you can still do this at home, and you can remember this. Put a dot on the ball. And then if you would, try and draw a heart around it. The heart will come in later. But put a dot on the ball somewhere, and then a heart around that ball, that heart. Excuse me, that dot. Woo! Okay? And then just pass the marker to the next person that has a ball and let them do the same thing. Okay? The dot would represent us, but obviously the dot is going to be much larger than what you would actually be. If you would be equivalent to the dot, you would be like the size of Texas, and that would be that'd be big. Okay, so I want you to have that as a way to remember what we're discussing here. So, if the Earth was a ping pong ball and you're the dot on it, how insignificant are you and I to the grander scheme of things? Pretty insignificant, really, because we're not even like a dot on a golf or a ping pong ball. Okay, but it would be so large that the ball that would be equivalent in the star size would be a ball 15 feet in diameter. You could fill a school bus with ping pong balls in the size differential between the sun and our Earth. In other words, there's 1 million Earths in one sun. It's pretty big, right? But that's fairly insignificant to the next star, if you would bring that up. Betelgeuse, or as this one says, Betelgeuse, okay? If you see the sun up there, that's how our sun, as big as it was, would compare to Betelgeuse. Okay, it's kind of small, right? Pretty small. In my opinion, anyway, it's pretty small. It is 2 times the size of Jupiter's, it is 2 times the size of Earth's orbit around the sun. It's the size of Jupiter's orbit around the sun. In other words, if you put it where our sun is, it would totally envelop and destroy our planet and every planet up until Jupiter. And it wouldn't go past that. It wouldn't get Saturn, but it would get Jupiter. It would destroy it. It's that big. It's 1 billion miles in diameter across. It's massive, okay? If Earth was a ping pong ball, You could fill Colts Stadium or Lucas Oil Stadium 3,000 times. It's massive. It's almost as big as our solar system. It's massive. But that's not even the biggest one. Let's go to the next one. Canis Majoris, Louis Giglio calls it this, and this is the name, really, is Big Dog. That's the Big Dog star. Okay, it's the biggest that we know of. They've found some that they think now might be a little bit bigger, but they really don't know. It's massive. If Earth was a ping pong ball, it would be a ball that would be 6 miles in diameter, or the size of Mount Everest, but in a ball. Okay? It's so big. It's massive. You can't even really measure it in like miles. It's that big. You don't want to mess with the numbers, really. You could fill the entire state of Texas, 22 inches deep with ping pong balls. I'm not even going to try and tell you a number because that's craziness. That's huge. That's just a star. That's not a universe. That's not a galaxy. That's not any of that stuff. That's just one star, and how massive it is. It is absolutely crazy how big the universe is. I just want to give you a few more facts. Okay. There are an estimated, if we go to the next slide, there's an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars in our galaxy, which is the Milky Way galaxy. There are an estimated 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. So if you figure that out, someone try and figure that out in their head real quick. The amount of stars that are in the universe. If anybody does that, then you need to go and work for NASA or something, because that would be incredible. That's 100 or 400 billion times 100 billion. That's a lot of stars in the universe. Again, that's not including the space between them. Let's look at the space. A conservative estimate for the size of the universe that we can see, the observable universe, is an estimate of 25 billion light years in diameter. They get to that point, you don't even look at miles, you look at light years, which is the distance that light travels in 1 year. A light year is 6 trillion miles in length. So if you wanted to try and measure the distance of how wide the universe, the observable universe is, that would be 25 billion times 6 trillion. That kind of seems big, right? Does that seem crazy big to you? Because it seems crazy big to me. The universe is big. And how it works when they measure that is it's observable. So what they do is they take any given point on the planet, and they can look out 12.5 billion light years with all their telescopes and all that stuff, and the stuff that's in space. They can look out 12.5 billion years in any one way. And if you figure that out, that's 25 to 26 billion light years away as a circle, okay? It's 25 billion light years in circumference, if you want to call it. There's a picture of what scientists say, the universe would look like if you could boil it down to a picture, okay? And because they measure it that way, they have to go from here out and then around. Where does that put the Milky Way? In the center of the universe. So even in our science, we become the center of the universe. Yay, that's all about us, right? It's all about us. We're at the center of the universe. That's what our science shows us. Science can tell us so much. It's not bad. It's really not bad. But it's limited on what it can do. It can give us an idea of measurements and things and theories and stuff like that, but it really can't ultimately answer the question how. That's the only thing that it can start to do, but it's just giving us theories about stuff. It can help us. So science is not bad. It's whenever we overassume what science can do, whenever we think that it can really, really ultimately tell us how, and especially why. That's a big problem. Why? Reason is great, but man has got to know his limitations, to quote one of my favorite actors, Clint Eastwood. A man has got to know his limitations. Humanity has to know its limitations. A man by the name of Robert Jastrow says this. He says, for the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He scaled the mountains of ignorance. In other words, what he thinks is ignorance. Everybody just myth and, all this religious mumbo jumbo. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to use my head. I'm going to figure it out. They scaled the mountain of ignorance, used their brain, and they're about to conquer the highest peak, because they've gotten so far back in history and so far what they think they know about the world or the universe and its creation or its existence, whatever you want to call it in their eyes, that they've gotten so far back, they figured so many things out that they think they're going to figure it out. And what they do is they get to that point and they pull themselves up over the rock and they've got it. Yes, here's what it is. And he says, then what they've done is they find a band of theologians that are there waiting for them, sitting there for centuries. Long story short, is he's saying the Bible, theologians had it figured out long before science did. We just wanted to figure it out. And this is one of the leading scientists in the history of NASA. He was like big time behind the Apollo missions and all of that, okay? He's not a, average brain. He's a very smart guy, okay? He's got things going on, and he says this. He goes on to say that there are what I or anyone would call supernatural forces at work is now, I think, a scientifically proven fact. Science, in a lot of ways, is actually saying there's things we can't answer, and but it looks like there's something to it as far as this whole religion thing. We've got some questions that we can't really have answered. If we go to the next slide, I want to look at one more thing here. That is kind of another scientific theory about how the universe was created, and it's an artist's rendering of how the universe was created, okay? Now, I don't describe to the timing that's on there. If you look at it, if you can see it, it says like 13.7 billion years, 380,000 years, and all these things, okay? I'm not saying that I believe that. I'm a 7-day creation guy. So I'm not saying that I subscribe to that. I'm not saying I subscribe to the Big Bang, which is what this is saying. But what the Big Bang does is it allows for something to be before there was, or let's say, there was nothing before there was something. Because if they trace it all back, there is this point in time where they say, science says there was nothing and then something. And they don't know how to answer that. In fact, one of the leading atheist scientists in the world, Richard Dawkins, essentially says, I don't know where it came from. I don't know where life came from. I don't know where the universe came from. It's a mystery to me. It's just a mystery. I don't know. But I'm not going to admit that there's a possibility that God did it. That's basically what he says. There can't be God. God could not have done it because I just know. Because I guess I was there. I don't know what his thinking is. But that's kind of where science has gone. If you would see what that looks like, it points to a creator, and it also looks like a megaphone, right? If you really imagine what that kind of looks like. Go ahead again. Looks kind of like a megaphone to me. There's actually another picture online you can find that actually looks more like a megaphone in that. Psalm 33:6 says, the Lord merely spoke and the heavens were created. He breathed the word and all the stars were born. It's like a megaphone. And God spoke it and it was. The scientists try and figure it out, and all of a sudden they figure out who's there. The people who have been studying the Bible forever and saying that it was God. He spoke and it was. In fact, science is so scrambling. Their newest theory is... that I've seen is that aliens did it. So I'm not joking. That does sound like a joke, right? But it's not. There are several scientists, supposedly, that say the only thing they can come up with, since they can't figure it out, since there's evidence of design, since that looks like there was a point whenever there wasn't anything and then there was, and that would line up with the Bible, can't be that, so gotta be aliens did it. I thought we were dealing with science here, not science fiction. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. It reminds me of a child who knows it all, right? I got this, Dad. Take a seat. I got this. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of my son that I love him to death. Because this is who we are as kids. We got to find ourselves as kids again, as children on some levels. Because that's really who we are, right? We are his children. And a lot of times, we act like children. Why don't we embrace that on some levels? Find the good to go along with our childish behavior sometimes. You know, the mind is great. Science is great. I'm a big fan of questions. Science can be helpful, but it can only take us so far. We need to realize our place. We need to realize his place. To think we can reason it all out is crazy. There has to be more. There has to be more. We have to respect him. We have to be in awe of him. Let's go to another slide. Job 38:4 says, Where were you when I laid the foundations of earth? Tell me if you know so much. Where were you? Where were we when he laid the foundation? Tell me if you know so much. What does that sound? What kind of an attitude does it sound like he's speaking with there? Oh, it sounds like he's speaking to a child. What attitude does it sound like he's got? God, when he's speaking to Job, he's saying, tell me where you were when I created everything. Sounds a little bit like sarcasm, right? Like, come on, young man. You ever talk to your kids that way? Tell me where you were when I bought that or when I did this. Come on, son. Come on, daughter. He's talking to us like a child. He's talking to Job like a child. Okay? He does tell us in this not to question him, but he doesn't say to not wonder. Psalm 89:5 says, all heaven will praise your great, what? Wonders. Why have we lost wonder and amazement? Because when we grow up, we don't do that anymore, right? We've got to, don't we really? We've got it all figured out. That's what little kids do. Imagination and a wondering amazement, that's what little kids do, not what adults do, because we've got it all figured out. Science has taught us so much. Okay, that's what we have to deal with. It's not just about knowing. Sometimes it's about feeling. Sometimes it's about feeling. Psalm 89:5 says, all heaven will praise your great wonders. Lord, myriads of angels will praise you for your faithfulness. We need to be in awe of his wonders. We need to be in awe of him. As mature as we fancy ourselves to be, because I'm very mature. Now, none of you kids say anything about that. Okay? As mature as we fancy ourselves to be, we must remember we have to embrace our inner child on some levels. We need to rediscover wonder, that childlike fascination, faith like a child. There's this song that I've been listening to a little bit recently. So, wonder. Don't you ever lose your wonder. And then it says, wide-eyed and mystified. Can you imagine if we were actually, looking at God sometimes in a way that's like, oh, my goodness, what's he going to do? Oh, my goodness. Oh. But we don't do that a lot of times. We're prim and proper. I'm very mature. We have to be that way on some levels, but we also have to not be that way on some levels and embrace that inner child that is so in love with his daddy and so enamored with his mom. And like, oh my goodness, I'm just waiting. I wanted to rediscover something. Oh my goodness. We have to embrace that. Studies and experience show that most decisions that we make are based on feelings. Most of what we do is based on feelings. Most of our decisions are based on our feelings. We make decisions based on limited and incomplete information, don't we? I mean, have you ever made a decision and been completely informed on all aspects of that decision before you made it? I have never. I've had a lot of information, but have I ever been completely informed to where I know without a shadow of a doubt that it's the right decision? Has anybody ever done that? No, we haven't, because a lot of our decisions are feelings based. Let's just acknowledge that. Let's acknowledge that. If somebody asks you why you love your wife or your kids, what do we say? Or your husband? Sometimes, what is it? I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes it's, I don't know, honestly. Okay, I'm going to say something here. In all honesty, that should be our correct answer. I don't know. Because what we do is we are in love with somebody, and we find reasons why. That's what we do. Because whenever you ask, says, why do you love your husband or your wife? We come up with all these reasons, but is that really why? Is it really why? When you think about it. Like, why did you buy your car? Why did you buy your house? Well, these reasons. But most of the time when a house is purchased, it's you walk in, This is my house. I've seen that, okay? Haven't I, Melissa? It's because something inside of us just says this is right. This is just right. We come up with the reasons a lot of times to back that up. But let's just be honest with ourselves that a lot of our decisions are based on our feelings. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But we get out of balance, and we need to be wide-eyed and mystified and embrace the fact that feelings are okay. Feelings are okay. Acts 9:31. The church, the early church got this, okay? They understood this. And that's why they experienced the results that they experienced. We want to have the results as a church or as individual Christians, to have all the joy and the blessing, right? We want to have all of that. But we don't want to go through or do things the way that the early church did it. We want to have the shortcuts just like we do as a little kid. We want it now, and we want it our way. The early church saw things a little bit differently. Acts 9:31 says, the church then had peace, what we all like, throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria, and it became stronger. They grew as the believers lived in fear of the Lord. How did they live? Fear of the Lord. And with the encouragement of the Holy Spirit, it also grew in numbers. So all the blessings came from living in what? Fear of the Lord, an acknowledgement of who He is. And they looked at the universe, and they saw how amazing it was. They knew the Scriptures. They looked at the universe and were amazed by that God. They were amazed by the Christ who died on the cross for their sins. And like, oh my goodness, I am in awe of this God. That is how they lived. And that is how they experienced the blessings that they experienced. There is no shortcut. If we don't give ourselves to that reality and experience that awe at who He is and what He has done, then we are never going to experience the results that we want. It's just not going to happen. We can try all we want, just like a little kid. I'm going to do it this way, Dad. It's not going to happen. We can try the shortcuts. We can whine and cry because we didn't get it. It's not going to change anything. There's only one way we can do it is by saying, okay, I'm a little kid and I need to praise my Heavenly Father who breathed the universe into existence. That is the only way we're going to experience that. We need to realize we're fearfully and wonderfully made, as the psalmist did. Scientist Francis Collins calls DNA the language of God. He says that in DNA you can find the fingerprints of God. Quick fact. If you take your DNA and stretch it out, every single ounce of DNA in your body, you stretch it out, it would go back and forth between the moon and back 178,000 times. If you can figure that math out again, you missed your calling. You need to be at NASA. It's 85 billion miles in length. That's your DNA. So it's not just our creation out there, it's our creation in here. Who He has made us to be. We are so unique. You know, there's none of us that are alike. We're all unique. We're all created, however, in the image of God. In Genesis 1:27, let's make man in our image. Let's create them. We are all unique, but created in the image of God. We were spoke into life. Colossians 1:16 says this, for through Him God created everything in the heavenly realms and on the earth. He made the things we can see and the things we cannot see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through Him and for Him. He is amazing. He created all the universe, all the galaxies that we're never going to see, all the stars, and He created us individually and unique. Another interesting fact that I learned in all of this is as many stars as there are in the sky, you know that in 10 drops of water, there's more molecules than all of the stars in the sky. Molecules of water, 10 drops. It's amazing. It's amazing. God is amazing. We need to be amazed by Him. We are created in His image, and as Ephesians 1:13 says, we're marked by majesty. We are loved. So if you look at your ball, Earth, you the dot, that's why the heart's on there. Because though we are insignificant and small, we are so loved. The greatest miracle was the cross and what He did there. Be in amazement of who God was and is and always will be. And that is the only way we're going to experience the blessings. That's the only way we're going to experience the life that we want. We are not going to go through shortcuts to get it. We're just not. So I have a question. What do you wonder about? What is it that amazes you? What is it that moves you, that will put you in a position where you go, oh my goodness, you are so amazing. I have a couple pictures. Maybe it's this next one. I mean, who sits at a sunset and goes, wow? I mean, seriously, that thing is 93 million miles away. It's 1 million times the size of Earth, and it looks like I can put it in my hand. Look there. That's amazing to me. It's beautiful. Beauty to me is, I just, what? That just happened by accident. The beautiful things of the world, of the universe, it just happened by accident. That doesn't happen. Maybe it's the next thing here. That's it? Oh, my goodness. There's supposed to be 2 more slides there. One of them is, right there you go. That's a nebula, which is a star. But what does it look like? Looks like an eye. It's in deep space, far, far away. Wow. I look at that stuff and I'm just like, what? It's amazing to me. God is incredible. But then let's draw it closer to home, because this is the thing that really gets me. Is kids, babies. I mean, the whole birth miracle and how that all happens, you're just like, huh? How? Yeah, accidents, right. Yeah, there are no accidents, right. For me, you have to make it personal. You know, what is it that gets me? What is it that gets you? What is it that moves you to where you will just be in awe of our Heavenly Father, our Creator, the universe breather? Think about that. He breathed, let's say, 92 billion light years of existence into existence by going, whew. Now, you're lucky you're far away from me right now, because that might be bad. Interesting fact that's most important is, how does it say in the Bible that the person who hates us is going to be slain? Does anybody know? It's in the book of Thessalonians. It says he's going to kill the man of lawlessness with the breath of his mouth. He's going to breathe on him, and he's going to be no more. He doesn't. It's not a great big battle. It's, whew, you're gone. Wow, it's amazing to me. This picture is what is personal for me. It's not my baby, but the thing that moves me the most, and one of the things that I think about, and we're going to pray, and we're going to sing. I've told this before. When my oldest was born, I was, wondering what's this going to be like? And when he was born, when he came out into the world, a wave of emotion came over me that was just like, what? Where'd that come from? I was like, I don't even know how that just happened, but what did you just do to me? And I was overcome with this wave of emotion, because my little boy was there for the first time, and it was amazing. It was incredible. If you can tell me anything other than God did that, then I don't know where you're coming from, because there is nothing that can do that but God. And I'm in amazement at that. I am in awe of that God. He breathed the universe into existence, but he also knit each individual one of us together in our mother's womb. Wow. We have to rediscover that. We have to rediscover that. We're going to stand and we're going to sing. And I don't know where you are, but I hope as we worship this morning, as the worship team goes ahead and comes forward, I hope that when we find ourselves in worship this morning, that we can be in awe of him. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about what I'm supposed to look like, but just be in awe of the one who breathed the universe into existence and who died on a cross because he loved you. Be in awe of him. We're going to sing some songs about how great is God, and just express that. Express that. I don't know where you are, but maybe you need to just give up the doubts that you've had for him for the very first time and actually acknowledge who he is and be in awe of who he is. Maybe you just need to rediscover the wonder as a child and be amazed at who God is. I don't know where you are, but now is the time. Just focus on worship, and if you need to come forward and make a decision, I would encourage you to do that. Come pray. You can talk to me or an elder. Just be in awe of him. Let's stand and let's sing.